Hello and welcome to the Freedom Watchdog channel. Today we're going to talk about commercial property and where it's heading in the future in the UK. Although some of these things will certainly apply worldwide, at least in the Western world where we've had a lot of lockdowns. Now before we start, I'd just like to preface what I'm about to go into by saying there's obviously a lot of commercial property that's getting left empty now, retail, offices, there's businesses going under as well as people working from home now because businesses have found it more cost effective, and they've been forced to set up their in-house infrastructure, if you like, to have people work from home, and they've decided to keep it that way to save a few quid on rent. Maybe rent a smaller office and get rid of the bigger office which they've had all this time. I'd just like to outline a few of the knock-on effects that has in the immediate areas where these businesses are based. Some of these things aren't quite so obvious. Now, the first and obvious thing it will affect is supporting businesses. And by supporting businesses, I mean cleaners which may come in and clean the offices. Any external company which comes in and does any kind of maintenance or other work, such as companies which may come in to provide security, electronic or physical, and just anything really which may be needed in the process of running an office. Now there's also a lot of effects which happen further afield, such as retail stores which are in the near vicinity. People may nip out on the dinner or when they finish work to get some new clothes occasionally, maybe get something as a gift for someone's birthday, that kind of thing, as well as obviously restaurants or small sandwich shops, any kind of food business which is nearby which may provide the workers the dinner. Well, they've just gone and lost quite a lot of the customers now, haven't they? And as if that's not concerning enough for the economy, another big effect this is going to have is less council tax will be being paid in these offices, in these retail stores when they're empty. So what does that mean? That means there's going to be less council tax getting collected. That's council tax which goes towards, schools, libraries, parks, bin collections, and some of your council tax also goes towards emergency services as well as social services for vulnerable people, for kids. There's going to be less coins in the pot now, which are going to go to all these services, which is obviously a bad thing. So if your bins in another year's time start getting collected even less frequent than they already are, this will probably be one of the contributing factors towards that. So these are things that you've got to bear in mind. It's not just people working from home or offices closing, it's a massive cause and effect situation which is going to affect so many more people than just the surrounding businesses which I just mentioned. And unfortunately a lot of these things, especially when it comes to the council tax side of things, will get missed by most of the public. They'll just realise that things aren't running as frequent as what they used to. But fortunately for you, the savvy investor, you'll be able to capitalise on the opportunities which this will bring. Of course, commercial property is going to be going really cheap in the coming years. So then the question becomes, if you get hold of some, or you have the opportunity to, at a bargain price, what are you going to do with it? One thing you can do, which I've mentioned before on this channel, is you can convert certain commercial properties, which is under Class E, you can convert into residential, which is classed as Class C. And you can do that without the need for planning permission, providing the property that you buy is classed as Class E. And if you've not heard of any of this stuff, it's just a way of local governments, councils, of keeping track of what properties do what, and basically just to make sure that you don't end up with a restaurant operating out of someone's house in the middle of a council estate, let's say, for example. It's just so they can maintain some kind of control and they know what's being used and where it's being used to make sure nothing silly happens like what I've just said. Now, even though you don't need planning, you probably will need building regs for some of the work that you're carrying out. So you may need an inspector to come out and inspect some work which will have to be carried out in order to make the conversion. But given that commercial property is so much cheaper than residential most of the time anyway, at least in terms of price per square foot, even after making the conversion it could be well worthwhile doing. Especially if you're, good on the tools, people in the trade, this could be a great opportunity. And if that sounds appealing to you, I'd urge you to look more into it. Start looking at commercial property in your area, maybe not even in your area as well, which is under the class use of E, and start looking at what would be viable. Now, there will be other opportunities what you can use that space for if you don't plan on converting any property for residential. You can use it for business purposes, but if you decide to go down that road, I'd just urge you to make sure it's somewhat lockdown proof and probably isn't completely dependent on passing trade either. So an example would be a shop that supplies nutrition supplements. That would probably be somewhat lockdown proof because I suppose in a way you're supplying food, and it's a certain niche where people are going to go out of their way to go to that shop to get what they want. You've also got cake shops or sweet shops, as I mentioned in another video. In my area there's been a rise of cake and sweet shops opening up. And of course you can also bear in mind, if you end up buying one of these retail properties which fall under the use of Class E permitted development, you could just convert the upstairs, rent it out as a flat which pays a mortgage for the whole place, and then you've essentially got a free space to operate down below. Operate whatever it is you decide to do. So think about how much that would give you an advantage over your local competitors if you've got free space to operate. That's a huge advantage to have over your local competition, because the chances are they won't have the luxury of having free space to operate like you do. And there will be a lot more opportunities as well if you don't want to get involved with any kind of retail business. There will be all kinds of warehouses going cheap, small industrial units. One thing to be aware of as well, when hard times come in like recessions and whatnot, you'll find that councils, they do loosen the restrictions a lot more because they want people to build, they want cash to start changing hands to try and get things moving with the local economy. So if you're as well up on planning law, or you knew someone that was, it could be worth, if you knew there's a good chance of getting planning permission on a property for it to be converted or anything like that, even if you don't want to carry out the conversion yourself. Let's say if it's a bigger property like a pub, which could be converted into, say, a block of flats. If you could get permission for that, then you've probably doubled the value of that property by doing so. And if you sit back and really think about this kind of stuff, your imagination's the only limit really, but you just need to remember what trends are going to happen moving forward from now. What happens if there's lockdowns? How is that going to affect your property or your business? And my aim with most of my videos, or all of my videos, is really to get you to think about the possibilities. It's no good me completely telling you what to do, because at the end of the day you're you, I'm me, and you will have your own preferences. You'll know your own strengths, what you're good at, what you're bad at, things that you can use to your own advantage. And because we're talking about more business stuff here, it can get complicated very quickly. That being said, there's certainly going to be opportunities moving forward. A lot of businesses will perish and new businesses will be born and flourish. And if you're quicker for the mark and your business needs some kind of property to operate, well, if you can pick up bargain property, like I said in the residential forecasts for the UK, my last two videos, if you can get a long fixed rate mortgage, well, your costs are going to be very, very low indeed if you pick that property up at a bargain price when no one else wants it. All about supply and demand, you see. There's going to be a lot of supply coming on over the next few years and there won't be much demand. But if you can find a purpose for any building which is going to give you profit in some way, shape or form, whether it be a conversion or business, then it's definitely worth thinking about. So if I give you something to think about, make sure you like, comment and subscribe so you can hear all the up-to-date information, what's going on in the economy, which will keep you ahead of the curve, keep you aware of what trends are happening and what's not happening, so you can benefit off everything that's going on right now. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.